Welcome back, everybody. You're watching the #1 home improvement YouTube channel in the entire world. It's paint day. I gotta paint this garage door and all the trim. Place your bets. How long is it gonna take me to prep the trim? I gotta scrape all this old paint off here. I gotta mask off the house siding. The trim and the door get painted the same color. I gotta move all the debris, mask off underneath, south facing. That is some seriously weathered wood. It got let go too long. But I gotta scrape all that off and mask everything off. Jeez, and paint it. I'm gonna be using a new paint sprayer. Just got it about a week or so ago. It is the Max Sprayer M1. It's a smaller airless than my old one. My old one had wheels on it and it wheeled it around. If you see what I've got in the bed of my truck, you'll understand why I'm switching to this compact unit. And we're gonna see how well it works. I'll get this all set up and test it out. Looks pretty good. Looks like this is the pickup hose. Goes right up and over into your 5-gallon bucket. Or in this case, I have a 1-gallon bucket. That's one thing with these airless is you got to be ready to do a decent amount of painting, and it helps if you have a 5-gallon bucket because so much paint is in the pickup tube and in the spray hose. You could have quite a bit of paint just occupied by this space here. I'm going to be using a wire brush for most of the work. Got a paint scraper. I also got some sandpaper, and to get the cobwebs I'll just be using a rag, but the wire brush is what I'm going to be using most of the time. This is about the time where a homeowner will stop doing what's necessary. They would just paint over all this loose paint. Either that or they would call someone in that they can pay to do this. Fortunately, most of the time it just gets painted over. They just say, screw it, I'm done. I've gone as much as I can. But all this loose paint's got to get scraped off. Luckily, it's only on the bottom panel and this seam right here. This house just got gutters, so for the last 10 years, water comes off the roof and lands. So when that water lands, it picks up the dirt and shoots it against the side, and it basically gets sandblasted. It's got an extension, pretty self-explanatory. Just pop the old tip off. Probably had to snug that down with a wrench. So far, very standard practice as far as how these airless sprayers work. There's a rubber seal on both ends. Check out my flashy new knife. This is a Gerber Custom Assert. Look at that elk bugling. So I built this on their website. I picked out the laser engraving. I picked out the colors. Picked out the deep carry pocket thing here. Made in USA, S30V steel. Try not to cut the hose. Put about 7.5 foot-pounds. Here's a close-up of what I'm doing. This is the header over the garage door, and I'm just cutting loose all this caulking that's not attached anymore. Well, there really is no fun way to do this, cleaning an airless paint sprayer. I had to use almost everything that's in the can, tilting it sideways. So I'm gonna switch it over to primer and try to get as much paint out of the tube. So you don't want to waste paint. There's a lot of good paint still in the hose. So what you'll do is you'll take that tip off and turn this down to low and put this pickup tube in a bucket of water and spray the good paint back into this bucket until you get water. Once you get water, then you go out to a field, a yard, a drain, and just keep flushing. This has a hose, is that a female? Hose end on it. So I'm going to just plug the hose right into there. No need to use the bucket. I'm out in a back half dirt, half weed field, so it doesn't really matter if a little bit of paint gets on the ground. That's good paint there. This is all paint that's in the hose. There you go, that's it. It doesn't take long for it to clean up. I'm going to spray quite a bit. There's still very diluted paint in this. You can see a little bit of the color. Then I'll run the pump, get the pump all cleaned out. But before I can get into the garage, you got to make sure that the door isn't painted in. So I've already done the sides. I'm going along the top gasket and just going slowly to make sure that it's not going to rip off the paint that I just put down when the door goes up. So overall, the Max Spray airless paint sprayer worked perfect. The key to these is maintaining them, keeping them clean, putting the pump armor in it when you're going to store it. That's about it. I suggest a larger job if you're going to spray. If you have a small job like this that you have to spray, wait till you have more of it before you spray, because that was a lot of masking and a lot of work just for 10 minutes of spraying. That is painting though. 99% preparation, 1% applying the paint to whatever surface you're trying to change the color of. So that was just a short example of what it's like to paint a house. It is very long and tedious, but there's not a high skill level to it. I think the highest skill you need is patience to do it right, to mask everything off correctly, and to do all the caulking correctly. You can paint the inside of a house with an air sprayer as well as the outside, and what the guys do is they spend 2 days doing nothing but masking. So 2 guys, 2 days masking everything. Every single thing you can imagine in the house. And then they come through in about 2 hours, paint the whole thing. Same thing goes for the outside of the house. You got to spend a lot of time masking. The more guys you have masking, the quicker it's going to go and the less crazy you're going to get. The weather affects your outside painting a lot. If it's too windy, can't paint. If it rains, you can't paint. Now, say you were to mask the entire house off and the next morning when the wind is down, you were going to paint. All your masking falls off the house because it got like wet and damp. Depending on the size of the house, you can do it yourself. Do it in sections. Do one side of the house and then do the next side of the house and the next side of the house, working with the weather. Airless paint sprayers are a pretty good tool for that. I don't think anybody paints with a paintbrush on the outside of their house anymore. I'll just give you a quick close-up of what I was doing, what levers I was flipping. You're going to turn it on and then you're going to adjust the pressure. So that is the highest pressure. You'd want that for thicker paint. You back it off down to low pressure. This is what I used when I was cleaning. There is this little indicator here. So there's a prime clean, low spray, and high spray. It's just stickers that are on here. When you're priming, what you're doing is you're going to suck paint up through here, and it's got to get into the pump. And on prime mode, you got to hit this little button underneath here too. I've never seen the little button before. And the paint's going to come out through this tube here. You're going to get air coming out through here. Once that's all clear, you switch it over to spray and the pump will throttle up, and then you'll start to see your hose shake harder and the pump slows down. And if you want more pressure, you just throttle it up and it'll pump until it reaches the correct pressure. Apparently there is a hose connector that goes in here that allows you to turn a garden hose on and off when cleaning this. That makes it a lot easier. As far as maintenance goes, I've taken airless sprayers apart a lot to try to keep them maintained and running. They can get clogged, and I'm not sure how you would take this one apart. There's a ball in there that you can pull out and clean that ball off. If you are going to let it sit for a while, there's this stuff called pump armor that just keeps everything lubricated and so things don't get corroded inside. If you guys got questions about painting houses, let me know. I've done a few of them. I've done enough to know that I don't really want to do it again, and I know what I'm getting into if I were to do it again. If you're a homeowner, try not to let your house go too far. All the suburbs have the same type of paint, same trim, same window, same siding, and they only last a certain amount of time. The caulking always cracks around the windows. That starts letting water in. Then you start seeing the trim around the windows start to deteriorate. The paint on the actual siding, that just fades. I've never really seen that start falling off or anything like that. Put your comments down below. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.